Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Baptiste Show. Always a pleasure to come into your homes and have these conversations with you. Well, today we are talking about the United States and its foreign policy, more specifically with regards to Haiti. The name is Roberto Baptiste. We come here into your homes almost every day, weekdays, 10 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. Also, keep in mind if you're listening from the podcast, we are grateful. So please do share our podcast and our vlog across the different mediums. So if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell for us and ensure that you are caught up with the latest episode of the Baptiste Show. Again, the name is Roberto Baptiste. We are gonna jump right into this. As you guys are probably aware, there are a bunch of folks that are trying to make it into the U.S. from the southwest border, traveling from Haiti. And if you've heard anything from Haiti, perhaps since the 2010 earthquake, it's always been about the state of immigration, whereas a lot of Haitians are leaving Haiti for Central America, for South America, and now migrating a little north towards the United States of America. But here's the thing. Um, Before I even jump into the United States and its foreign policies and the irresponsible decisions that the U.S. have made with regards to Haiti, make no mistakes. Haitians are to be blamed for the state of their country, meaning Haitian politicians, Haitian leaders, because of their lack of interest towards a stable Haiti. Haiti is where it's at today. So don't think for a second that we're trying to lay all the blame at the feet of the United States. However, we cannot ignore the fact that the United States of America has been complicit in making Haiti what it is today, a lawless state where folks are desperate to leave the country in search of a better life for themselves and their families. Very simple. All right, again, the name is Roberto Baptiste. You're watching and listening to the Baptiste Show. We're gonna dive into two articles, whereas you will understand how quickly the table turns when you're a Haitian politician. Okay, the very first article that we will discuss here is a Reuters article. You'll have access to it as well in the credits. We will read these two articles in their entirety, and that's what we are discussing today. So you understand the role again that the U.S. play in foreign policy in Haiti, but more so as well around the globe, and why over time those same ill decisions always come back to hurt the national security of the United States, whether it's from an immigration standpoint, the war on drugs and the war on terrorism and what have you. All these are impacted by the short-sighted effects of some of the U.S. Foreign policies. All right. So the article that we want to discuss first was written by Harold Isaac and Brian Ellsworth. It's Canada sanctions ex-president Martelly for financing gangs. Okay. Port-au-Prince, November 20th. Canada, that was an article that came out in 2022, November 20th, 2022. Canada has sanctioned former Haitian President Michel Martelly and two former prime ministers for financing gangs. Canadian authorities said on Sunday, the latest in a series of measures targeting alleged backers of Haitian criminal groups. In September, Haitian gangs created a humanitarian crisis by blocking a fuel terminal for nearly 6 weeks, halting, most economic activity and triggering UN discussions of a possible foreign strike force to open the terminal. Canada and the United States have sanctioned political leaders who allegedly financed the gang, which, according to policymakers, are backed by Haitian elites. These latest sanctions target a former president of Haiti and two former prime ministers of Haiti suspected of protecting and enabling the illegal activities of armed criminal gangs. The Office of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in a statement which did not name the individuals. Canada journalist Louis Blouin wrote on Twitter that the sanctions targeted Martelly as well as former Haitian Prime Ministers Laurent Lamotte and Jean-Henri Séan. Sebastian Carrier, Canada's ambassador to Haiti, replied on Twitter with the words, "I confirm." Martelly served as president of Haiti from 2011 to 2016, taking office in the wake of the devastating 2010 earthquake in Haiti. Martelly, a pop singer, will perform under the stage name Sweet Mickey before becoming president. Uh, Martelly was strongly backed by the United States before and during his presidency and made a living playing shows in South Florida after leaving office. He was succeeded by ally Jovenel Moise. It was succeeded by ally Jovenel Moise, who was assassinated in 2021. Seyon served as prime minister from 2018 to 2019. Reuters was unable to contact him or Martelly. Lamotte, who was prime minister from 2012 to 2014, described the announcement as the fakest of fake news, noting he has publicly sought foreign interventions to fight gangs. Canada cannot provide one piece of evidence because there is none. He wrote in a text message to Reuters. This is absurd. Police took back control of the terminal this month and fuel has started to flow again, but gang kidnappings are on the rise and armed groups continue expanding control of territory. This was the Reuters article that we wanted to discuss with you guys, right? That very first article, you would think you're talking about a despotic leader that Canada or the U.S. knew nothing about, right? That's what you're thinking. Well, they're sanctioning the guy because life is hellish in Haiti. Gangs are running rampant. A lot has happened in a year. I wanted to take you back, and now we're gonna give you some context where we are today. Well, a few weeks ago, a report came out from the United Nations. The report confirmed that President Martelly has been financing gangs in Haiti, has been distributing weapons to those gangs in the different streets and slums of Haiti. Therefore, today, he has had a direct impact on those gangs holding the country hostage. That's the latest in the UN report, which, again, was backed and commissioned by the United States and Canada. The US, if you are not aware, have been going on a world tour for nearly 2 years now to find a country to lead an international force that will help establish peace in Haiti. So call it a peacekeeping mission. That's what it should be. So in their endeavor, the United States, that is, they've tapped Kenya from Africa to lead that mission with the technical assistance from the United States, whereas the U.S. have already promised $200 million to help restore peace in Haiti, basically, right? And Canada is supposedly part of that mission as well and will be involved in Haiti. How did we get to this point where now Michel Martelly, like we said, was strongly backed by the U.S. before and during his presidency to now being the bête noire, the black beast, basically, of the Western world. Whereas now he's persona non grata in Canada. He's been sanctioned. He can't travel to Canada. His finances are supposedly frozen and whatnot. Despite all that, despite the U.S. putting people on so many sanction lists, Michel Martelly, as far as we are aware, is not on no-fly list for the U.S. or has been sanctioned by the U.S. yet. Why is that? We're gonna read you the second article before again we dive a little deeper and give you even more context as to what is the relationship like between Michel Martelly and the United States and why the perilous foreign policies of the U.S., the short-sightedness of those policies, have always or have often come back to harm the United States of America and how we need to do better as a country. Well, this article appeared in Al Jazeera, and the article revealed USAID, the U.S. aid agency, funded groups supporting Haitian president in 2011. Okay, after the U.S. pushed to overturn the 2010 election, the agency gave a political movement backing Martelly a support worth $100,000. That's a lot of money. If you're doing Haitian politics, you convert that money in Haitian gourd. That is a lot of money. The U.S. Agency for International Development gave nearly $100,000 to a Haitian political movement with close ties to President Michel Martelly after the country's 2010 elections. Document obtained by Al Jazeera showed. The money was allocated shortly after Washington helped overturn the election result to thrust Martelly into power. On the afternoon of Haiti's November 28, 2010 elections, 12 of 18 presidential candidates took the stage at the glamorous Caribe Hotel IHOP in the mountains that surround the capital. The elections were a fraudulent mess, they told the gathered press, and the only way out was to cancel the poll and start over. Chaos soon engulfed Port-au-Prince and other cities as thousands of young Haitians, many clad in the pink synonymous with Michel Martelly, took to the streets to simultaneously denounce electoral fraud and herald the victory of their candidate many days before any official results will be announced. In the midst of the mayhem, key international actors mobilized at an emergency meeting at the home of the head of the UN peacekeeping mission, Edmond Muller. Leading diplomats pushed then President Rene Preval to accept their offer of a plane to take him out of the country and avoid further confrontation. Muller also approached the front runners, including Martelly, telling them they had secured a spot in the second round and to cease calls for the election's cancellation. Days later, when the Electoral Council announced preliminary results that did not have Martelly advancing to the runoff, the streets were once again taken over by largely pro Martelly protesters. The U.S. Embassy released a statement questioning the announced results, fueling the demonstrations in Port au Prince even more. The pressure of these pro Martelly demonstrators on the day of the elections and during the following weeks was a key factor in convincing the U.S. and other international actors to intervene in Haiti's elections and force the electoral authority to change the results of the first round so as to ensure that Martelly remained on the ballot. I will read that paragraph again. The pressure of these pro Martelly demonstrators on the day of the elections and during the following weeks was a key factor in convincing the U.S. and other international actors to intervene in Haiti's elections and force the electoral authority to change the result of the first round so as to ensure that Martelly remained on the ballot. According to numerous first-hand accounts, the Mouvement Tête Calais, the MTK, a political organization with close ties to Martelly, was active in these street mobilizations. Now, documents through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal that the U.S. government later provided nearly $100,000 US in support to MTK, the Mouvement Tête Calais, supporting Martelly, through the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. The arm of USAID that funded MTK can provide support to political groups as long as that support is provided to all political parties equally and does not influence election outcomes. The second round of that election, held in March 2011, was the last election held in Haiti at the time. We're talking about an article that was written in 2015. Mayors across the entire country saw their term expire in 2012 and were replaced by political appointees who are in power today. Also in 2012, a third of the Senate reached the end of their terms. Without new elections, this severely hampered the Senate's ability to reach a quorum and legislate. On January 12, 2015, on the 5th anniversary of the earthquake, the terms of the entire Chamber of Deputies, which is like Congress in the U.S., the House of Representatives, and another third of the Senate came to an end, leaving Martelly to govern by decree. Throughout it all, the U.S. government has stood by the president. On January 11th, as leaders scrambled to cobble together a last-minute deal to prevent Parliament from dissolving, the U.S. Embassy released a statement dumping cold water on any hopes for an agreement. Even if no deal is reached, it wrote, the U.S. will continue to work with President Martelly and whatever legitimate Haitian government institutions remain. I will read that again. Even if no deal is reached, the U.S. will continue to work with President Martelly and whatever legitimate Haitian government institutions remain. It was through the Office of Transition Initiatives, OTI, arm of USAID, specifically through the profit contractor Chemonix, that the support for MTK, Mouvement Tête Calais of Martelly, was provided. Chemonix's contract with USAID explained that its primary focus is to support U.S. foreign policy objectives, further, while noting that the OTI cannot create a transition or impose democracy. The office may identify and support key individuals and groups. In short, OTI acts as a catalyst for change where there is sufficient indigenous political will, end quote. In the lead up to Haiti's election, the OTI funded campaigns to increase voter turnout that targeted Haiti's youth, funded Haiti's first televised debates, and created a website to track election news and analysis. It also provided funding to political organizations on opposing sides, according to a former technical advisor who worked for the OTI program for Chemonix and who spoke on condition of anonymity because of a non-disclosure agreement with the contractor. USAID funding for political parties is not in and of itself a breach of policy, though it is restricted. The documents indicating 100,000 US dollars in support to MTK Movement at Calais of Martelly redact information on any funding to other groups. USAID's political party assistance policy, crafted in 2003 under George W. Bush administration, encourages support (PDF) to political parties as a way to foster friends and allies and develop relations with incoming governments. The policy also covers NGOs that operate as de facto political parties. However, support is allowed only under certain terms, including that all democratic parties receive equitable levels of assistance and that the funding not affect election results. Waivers must be obtained from the USAID administrator for any financing outside the scope of the policy. USAID press officer Lisa Hibbert Simpson confirmed in an email that no waivers have been requested in Haiti since the earthquake. It was very difficult to be nonpartisan, the former technical advisor said. At the time, USAID's program was being run by both Chemonix and the Development Alternatives Inc., DAI. If one Maynard Maniga supporter goes to the DAI and requests support, then OTI would ask Chemonix how to help the other party. A 2009 Congressional Research Service report on the OTI's activities called the USAID's branch overtly political and said that while it is subject to the party assistance policy, its work often lends itself to political entanglements that may have diplomatic implications. Assad Volsi, a spokesman for the opposition political platform Petite Dessalines, was unsurprised when shown evidence of U.S. support for MTK Movement at Calais. Assad Volsi said, and I quote, "They give money to control the power." An electoral movement. In May 2011, with Martelly's inauguration just days away, USAID provided a grant of $98,928 to Chemonix to support MTK. According to Chemonix's internal activity database, the grant was for cleaning up the capital in advance of the presidential inauguration. Chemonix and USAID declined to be interviewed for this story. In an email statement, USAID said that Chemonix used the money to provide hand tools to MTK to clean the streets as part of a civic engagement program. Both Chemonix and USAID, in separate emails, used the exact same language to describe MTK, calling the group a network of community-based organizations and not a political organization. However, one person who was a member of MTK from 2010 to 2014, the movement at Calais, and who requested anonymity for fear of reprisal, explained that from the very beginning, MTK was a political movement. The former MTK member explained that before the election, many Haitians bought pink membership cards, declaring themselves the base of Michel Joseph Martelly, BMJM. The pink cards were supposed to get people jobs with the new government, as well as discounts at local businesses. It was also a tremendously successful way to obtain personal information on thousands of potential voters. At the time, analysts noted the similarity to the infamous Tonton Macoute, the brutal secret police active under François Papadoc Duvalier's dictatorship, which had a similar system of membership cards that yielded patronage and privileges for holders. The first round of the election was fatally flawed from the beginning, with over 1 million people still displaced by the earthquake and a cholera epidemic sweeping the country. There was predictably massive disenfranchisement, with most would-be voters simply staying home. Initial results released by the Electoral Authority put Maniga and Préval's preferred successor, Jules Célestin, in the runoff election. For days, throngs of Martelly supporters took to the streets of the capital, seeking to push their candidate into the second round. They were clad in their signature pink and loudly declared their support for Mouvement Tête Calais. Many also carried their pink membership cards. Maniga, Martelly's eventual rival in the second round, dubbed the street supporters Martelly's Pink Militia and warned the threat to political tolerance that they represented. It was an electoral movement. A current member of MTK, who held various positions in the organization and spoke on the condition of anonymity to avoid reprisals, said during a recent interview in Port-au-Prince. After the first round, it was us in the streets protesting. This is the movement that put Martelly into power. The former NTK members said that at first, members were given BMJM cards, but that after the election, they were given new cards with MTK emblazoned on them. He showed both his now expired cards. Street pressure, this is the very important part of the article, folks. Street pressure and US led diplomatic pressure succeeded in overturning the first round results in what Organizations of American States OAS whistleblower Ricardo Setenfus later described as a silent coup, a mission nominally from the OAS but in reality funded in large part and controlled by the United States government, according to analysts, went to Haiti to analyze the result. What the OAS recommended was unprecedented. Without any statistical basis, the mission said Martelly came in second, ousting Jude Celestin, from the runoff. In a private meeting in 2011, the head of the OAS statistical team, Fritz Schorin, acknowledged that in all his years, he had never otherwise seen an example of an election outcome being reversed without a recount. In a January 2015 interview in his home in the historic Paco neighborhood of Port-au-Prince, the prime minister at the time, Jean-Max Bellerive, said that when he first received the OAS report on the election, it was clear that the conclusions it reached were not supported by the evidence in the report. According to Bellerive, Mueller would not accept a result that put Celestin in the runoff. Hillary Clinton, the U.S. Secretary of State at the time, traveled to Haiti in late January 2011 to push for overturning the first round election. We tried to resist and did until the visit of Hillary Clinton. That was then when Rene Preval, president at the time, understood he had no way out and accepted the OAS report, Bellerive said. This article is lengthy, but it's very important that we keep on reading to give you the context of how we're going to frame this debate today and what we'll be talking about. The consolidation of power. Sitting in an air-conditioned office behind the gates of Action City in Haiti's wealthy Pétionville neighborhood, Georges Racine, the president of MTK, Mouvement Tête Calais, defended the group's social mission and discussed the relationship between the movement and the party. We started the organization based on the needs in Haiti, and so we began to train first responders, he said, adding that the initial logo was to have MTK first responders in every locality in Haiti, and group members have appeared alongside Haitian First Lady and current Senate candidate Sophia Martelly at big events, such as Carnival. Members have been invited to the National Palace to receive certificates for their first aid training. At first, there was more support, he said, but now sponsors are afraid to back the organization because they see it as political. But he insisted that MTK is totally separate from Martelly's political party, Parti Haïtien Tête Calais, PHTK. He wasn't as sure in 2012 after the formation of PHTK, however, when Haiti's leading daily newspaper, Le Nouvelliste, asked about MTK's relationship with the party. I can't tell you if it's a movement, if it's a party. Contact me on Monday and I'll be able to give you more information, he told the paper at the time. Michel Martelly, a famous compas musician, who frequently performed for members of Haiti's brutal military under Jean-Claude Baby Dog Duvalier, eventually emerged triumphant from the rubble of Haiti flawed elections. But he did so without a true political base, having campaigned on the ticket of a small party, Réponse Paysan, the farmer's response. He arrived in office without any congressional allies and with less than 5% of the electorate having voted for him. Yes, only 5% of the electorate voted for Michel Martelly to be president in 2011. USAID was quick to point out that Mouvement Tête Calais is not the same thing as the Tête Calais Party, which came into being in 2012, a year after the inauguration and the grant. But Bellerive explained that in Haiti, politicians ride electoral movements to office, then consolidate their party afterward. It was no different with Martelly, he said. In PHTK's headquarters, behind a palatial gate and surrounded by lush trees, party representative Woody Chute explained the role of MTK over the loud hum of an air conditioner. MTK was a campaign movement, but we needed a political party, and the president agreed, he said. So we took from MTK and formed PHTK. After we formed PHTK, some wanted to stay outside the party so they wouldn't be limited in what activities they could participate in, He said we get help from outside. MTK exists because we need them. Racine was active in PHTK, acknowledged that during the election, he and other supporters formed MTK in order to help Martelly ask about his role as head of MTK in his political activism. Racine responded that he wears two hats. A Martelly campaign poster from 2010 stared back from the doorway. Racine became Secretary of State for the Interior, the powerful ministry in charge of internal security. In 2011, though he later quietly resigned after questions arose about his Haitian citizenship, while waiting to speak with Racine, Al Jazeera witnessed an SUV with tinted windows and government plates drive into the parking lot. George Racine's wife, Magali Racine, stepped out. Her mother, a powerful Tonton Makut, ran a notorious torture camp during Francois Duvalier dictatorship, and the family's ties to figures from that era run deep. In early 2013, he became Minister of Youth, Sports, and Culture, which has been at the center of corruption allegations involving the first family for years. Ongoing support. In MTK storage yards, boxes and old clothing stood at least 15 feet high amid cluttered rows of old appliances and furniture. A young man who milled about as trucks came and went, dropping off goods and leaving with fresh cargo, explained that much of the equipment came from Haitian Customs, which provides seized goods to Auction City, a large auction yard and also the headquarters of MTK to be sold. Georges Racine confirmed this. That relationship predates the election of Martelly. Racine initially said the group received no funds from the US government, but after being presented with evidence of the funding, he acknowledged that USAID provided some support right after the election in 2011. They stopped after, I think because of apprehension. They never said it, but I suspected it was because they saw us as a political movement. He said when he first approached the US government for funding during the campaign, officials offered to build the movement's first center, but they later backed off, he said. USAID confirmed by email that this is the only such grant provided by USAID OTI through Chemonix to MTK, but whether deliberately or not, the US government continues to provide support for the movement. Racine said that he has had trouble raising funds for MTK and that the main support for the movement at this point come from Auction City. Since at least 2003, the U.S. Embassy has sold its old equipment, including cars, through Auction City, providing ongoing and direct support to Racine and his political groups. A former USAID official who was not authorized to comment on the relationship and asked not to be identified, confirmed that Racine has big auctions, often of equipment from his international community, specifically USAID. They know him very well. Upcoming elections. With no functioning parliament since January, Martelly has scheduled elections by decree, with first round legislative elections scheduled for August 9th, that was 2015. Still, a majority of Haitians in a recent poll said they don't believe elections will be held. If they are, Martelly's political party will be in position of strength. Jean-André Victor, the coordinator of the opposition platform Mopad, said in his small office piled high with old folders and paperwork that the government consolidates power in order to weaken opposition parties. Elections for election's sake or nothing, he said. The international community sees elections as election day, but it's the process that matters to us. Having spent 3 years consolidating its network without having to compete in any elections, PHTK was able to register more candidates than any other political party. Victor and others allege that nearly half of the 128 registered political parties are closely aligned with the president's party, with their presence on the ballot serving only to obfuscate and divide the vote. But if PHTK is successful, it won't be because of the base of support that pushed Martelly into the presidency. Disillusionment, disillusionment with his government set in quickly. A recent poll showed his approval rating nearly 20 points lower than the national average in the all-important West Department, home to the many poor neighborhoods from which his supporters emerged to take over the streets in 2010. The former MTK members sat back in his plastic lawn chairs, his frustration with the movement clearly evident. Before the elections, they are your friends, but after they are gone, those that seek change will be disappointed. There is no change with Mouvement Tête Calée, he said, shaking his head. Well, it was a lengthy article, but it's an article that was worth reading, worth talking about. It is amazing of how quickly the United States and Canada can catch amnesia. The issue, unfortunately, is one where the United States oftentimes thrusts itself in the foreign affairs of countries, put their thumb on the electoral scale, saying that they're doing so to further democracy. Imagine for a moment that Rene Preval, the president of Haiti at the time, was the one that organized the elections after the earthquake in Haiti. Elections that were already difficult as is because you had people at the time living in tent cities in Haiti because the earthquake was fresh. So, in order for Preval to have a democratic transition, he needed to have those elections. He held those elections. To give you some context again and conjecture here, when the first round of elections occurred, Martelly was nowhere to make it to the second round, or as we call it here in the US, the runoff of these elections. It was Milad Maniga, who finished first, and Jude Celestin, who finished second. Those two were supposed to face off. The way elections work in Haiti and a lot of the third world countries is you have a first round where every candidate that present themselves and qualify to run, they run. And then the first two candidates, the top two vote getters, they actually go to a runoff. And whoever win at that time become president of the country. The entire country was paralyzed because the Mouvement et Calais, Martelly supporters took to the streets to protest why their candidate was not in the runoff. Under heavy U.S. pressure and under a U.S.-backed Organization of American States delegation, now folks were saying Michel Martelly should be in the runoff. Despite all that pressure, Preval and Prime Minister Bellerive resisted. They did not just announce that Martelly was in the runoff. Not until then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton under President Obama traveled to Port-au-Prince herself to deliver the message that basically nothing short of Martelly in the runoff would be acceptable to the United States of America. Therefore, the entire second round was changed. Not because there was a recount of the first round's tallies of the votes. Martelly suddenly became part of the runoff versus Milad Maniga. As history has it, Michel Martelly would win the election. Martin, who was the then U.S. ambassador, was at the inauguration, and Michel Martelly, in plain English, he said this, and I'll quote him here: Haiti is now open for business. What business that was, I have no clue, because at the end of the day, here's the current business in Haiti. In 2015, the Haitian opposition said Martelly had no legitimacy. Haiti's entire Congress was basically gone. We had a first round of presidential elections that were canceled because Martelly's chosen candidate then, Jovenel Moïse, it became apparent that there were some fraudulent activities. They canceled the first round. The second round went on. That's the one election that occurred 3 times, basically, in Haiti. Jovenel Moïse became president in what, again, the opposition was crying foul over, and that was fraudulent, according to them. Jovenel Moïse did not get to govern a single year without the streets burning, without protests in the streets. So as a result, we had the movements called lockdown of the country, where folks could not even buy goods. As a result, the parliamentarians that were there decided to investigate Michel Martelly for distributing weapons at the time. One particular congressman was arrested for doing so after he uncovered weapons were purchased from Israel and delivered in Haiti. Weapons that were supposed to go to the Haitian police and military. They never made it. On the contrary, they made it to the gangs in Haiti. Some of those weapons were actually identified to have reached as far as Jamaica, Dominican Republic. So that's the backdrop you have between 2016 and 2019, basically. And as that happened, the gangs became more powerful. The gangs started gaining more territory. because those same gangs are the same people that took to the streets in 2011 to demand Martelly be part of the runoff, or the second round of the elections, of the runoff rather. So as a result, as those gangs gain more weapon, they help consolidate Martelly's power. Not my say so, not my saying. That's according to the UN report that just came out. Then those gangs became emboldened. What happened when you feed a beast for so long and you're no longer able to contain that beast? Well, that beast has to feed itself. Those gangs now decided, we have the weapons, we have the bullets, we can actually generate income for ourselves. As more scrutiny started to be placed on the Haitian politicians and the patrons of those gangs, well, those gangs had to find other sources of revenue. Kidnappings became rampant in the country. Haiti became unlivable. As a result, Haitians started to leave the country en masse in greater numbers than ever seen before. Okay? So what ended up happening is that at the end of the day, President Martelly left office. Jovenel Moïse's protege took over. Jovenel Moïse ended up being assassinated in his own house while still in office. Oh, by the way, there was another constitutional crisis because Jovenel Moïse actually started ruling by decree after he sent home the entire Congress of Haiti, saying that their mandate has ended. Now you have an institutional crisis where there is no legitimate institution, as the U.S. so eloquently stated that they would support Martelly and other legitimate institutions back then. You had the legislative branch gone. The judiciary, Jovenel Moïse had tried to stack it up with his own judges, which didn't take because there was a tentative of coup against him. He got furious and decided to basically abolish the judiciary. So that became impotent itself. And then now with the assassination of Jovenel Moïse, there was the last shoe that dropped. The executive branch was gone. 2 years ago, Haiti descended into the abyss. We thought that was the end of it, but it got worse because now what you have is the gangs decided to be even braver in terms of taking control of the country. You would think the United States of America would have learned from their mistakes of trying to put their thumb on the scale and rather have Haitians dictate their future. They did not. When several Haitian leaders at the time, political leaders, had the courage to stand up to the U.S. demand that they needed to organize elections within 3 months of Jovenel Moïse passing in order for them to be supported by the U.S., some of them told the United States of America that was impossible. Because even under regular conditions, Haiti is never ready for a 9-day transition to have elections. What did the U.S. do? They decided to back Dr. Ariel Henry, who's now the current prime minister of Haiti, who promised them he was going to organize elections in 90 days. Folks, it's been 24 months. No election calendar has even been published in Haiti as of yet. Here's the dilemma. Here's the problem. On one hand, you have the United States of America always talking up democracy, always talking up the rule of law. By the same token, that same United States of America is always undermining the rule of law and democracy in those poor countries. We do not live in some cocoon where we don't get impacted by those decisions and their ramifications. When the U.S. goes into a place like Haiti and select a leader like Michel Martelly, who is found to be actually distributing assault rifles into the poor slums of Haiti in support of his political movement and aspirations, what does that do to the United States security? Well, in turn, that drives thousands, hundreds of thousands of Haitians out of their country to come to the southwest border trying to find a better life in the U.S. Again, we are not isolated, folks, from the entire world. It's not like we live on an island and we don't pay the price for those involvement that we've been doing for so many years now. When will we learn? Just because we might want to get involved, that we need to do so responsibly. What I find even more disturbing is that currently the U.S. foreign policy operatives have caught the severe case of amnesia. that they are the ones that actually supported Michel Martelly both financially, diplomatically, and publicly to govern Haiti. Then all of a sudden, now that we're finding all this out that people have been telling the U.S. about for a long time, Canada and the U.S. want to put Michel Martelly on some kind of list. But what is that doing to resolve the ongoing crisis, the humanitarian crisis in Haiti? Not a doggone thing. Michel Martelly could be placed in whatever list. The consequences of what he's done already. If the U.S. is being serious about helping Haiti or helping from a foreign policy standpoint, they need to actually take the lead in cleaning the mess they created. The late Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, former Joint Chief of Staff, Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, he said it best. You break it, you own it. You break it, you buy it. In terms of peacekeeping, you do not have the luxury to say, oops, my bad, I did not mean to. When you have a third candidate or a candidate that finished third, fourth in an election that doesn't cut it to make it to the runoff, you actually actively put your thumb on the scale for that candidate to be elected president of a country. Fast forward to 12 years later, that same president is being found to be one of the most corrupt, one of the most violent, one of the most evil being on the face of the planet. You don't get to say, oops, my bad. So if you hear folks are calling on the United States to do its part and take up its responsibility to clean up its mess in Haiti, that is why. Believe it or not, you owe it to them, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your national security to ensure that there is a stable country there in Haiti. Because if that country is as destabilized as it is, continue to travel down the path of chaos and continue to be a failed state, the national security consequences can be really great for the U.S. Very grave. Think of it this way. Right now, folks are amassing on the southwest border from Haiti to make it here. What happened when you have hundreds of boats, thousands of boats leaving the shores of Haiti to make it to the Keys, to make it to Florida? How much money will we spend then as a country? What do you think is happening as Haiti plummet and plunge into chaos with regards to the drug trade, with regards to transnational crimes? A lot of it is transiting through Haiti to make it to the streets of the United States of America. Therefore, we need to be held accountable and be responsible. You don't get to break it and say, oops, my bad. You have got to take the responsibility to take care of your mess. It is rather unfortunate. Unfortunate because the United States have had a long history of getting involved in matters that perhaps they don't understand, or perhaps we don't put enough stopgap to prevent one entity from making the wrong decisions on behalf of an entire nation. Believe it or not, the U.S. has done a tremendous amount of good in the world. We know that. But that good cannot be superseded by some of the ill-advised decisions we've made in terms of foreign policy. You don't get to embrace democracy when it's convenient to you. Democracy is one of those sports that it's beautiful and ugly at the same time. It's beautiful when you're winning. It's ugly when you lose, when your candidate loses. But that's part of the democratic process, isn't it? In 1986, the U.S. decided, you know what, the dictatorship experiments in Haiti had to end. It had to stop. We're going to introduce democracy. That's very young, relatively to the United States of America's 1776 experiment that we've been having. You cannot expect a country like Haiti to be a thriving democracy in 30 years or less. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic. So as a result, when you have Jules Celestin, Milad Manigat making it to a runoff of election in 2011, you got to let it play out. You got to be a partner that is simply neutral. You cannot be the one that says, nope, our guy is Michel Martelly. We're going to run and ride with him. That's the guy we want. is not in power. You guys are no longer getting any funding. You're not getting any recovery funds from the earthquake relief funds. You're done. You don't get to say that. Why? Fast forward to today, that is why. Because you're going to end up with a lot of Haitians on your southwest border trying to make entry illegally into the United States, therefore increasing increasing the demand for resources from your home country to them. Because they're here, you got to deal with them. That is how you develop a crisis on the southwest border, by being short-sighted in the current policy decisions you're making from a foreign policy standpoint. We have got to be brave enough to do the difficult things, not only as a nation, but as individuals. So I'm calling on the State Department. I'm calling on the Defense Department to do what's right. You guys know what needs to be done in Haiti. And trust me, it doesn't involve Kenya going to Haiti from a peacekeeping mission standpoint. The U.S. can fix Haiti's problems in 6 months or less because of the deep-rooted relationship that exists between Haiti and the U.S. When you occupied a country for 30 years, from 1915 onward, trust me, the U.S. knows a lot more than any other foreign nation knows about how to stabilize Haiti. It's not going to happen by having a hands-off approach now. You've already broken it, so you own it. Now, we said at the onset here that we're not going to lay the blame at the U.S. and say, well, the U.S. this, the U.S. that. No. Of course, Haitians are responsible for what's happening in their home country. When you have a guy like Michel Martelly, you have a guy like Lamotte, who's still claiming his innocence. We would love to have him on this show one day. When you have guys like that actually played right into the hands of the United States, that actually, like Martelly, distributed weapons into the slums of Haiti, you're destroying your own country. You're forcing your own citizens to leave their homes, everything they know behind, for uncertain shores. So that's evil. There should be a special place in hell for people like that, because Haiti is already a poor country that actually deserve better, where folks actually deserve better, to live their lives better. When you are supposed to be their leader and that's how you conduct yourself, simply to enrich your pockets and that of your family, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. We're not going to neglect that part. But today we have got to ask the national security apparatus, the foreign policy apparatus in the United States, to do their job. It starts with acknowledging that y'all messed up. Y'all created the power vacuum that exists in Haiti today, where the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judiciary branch are all gone. It is shameful. I will repeat, it is shameful that more Haitians involved in the assassination of Jovenel Moïse are being prosecuted in Florida than they are in Haiti. It is by design, because at the end of the day, Haiti's judiciary is gone. We're not talking about weakened, because weakened means there's a way to actually revive it right away, and everything else. No investment has been made in the system from a humanitarian standpoint and from a financial standpoint in so many years. Therefore, if Haitians are looking for any semblance of justice for their president being assassinated in Haiti, they have to look to South Florida to do that for them. How insane does that sound? That us as Americans for a moment would have to turn to Mexico to get justice for crimes that are being committed in the U.S. Do you know how crazy that sounds? Yet when the U.S. want to get involved and disengage from the build-up aspect in terms of building up democracy, that's what happened. You're left to do everything for that country that you're supposed to help build up. Again, in the word of Colin Powell, the late Colin Powell, you've broken it, you now own it. Stop trying to pass the hot potato to Kenya, to Canada, and so many others. It is our mess to clean up. We've created that mess in Haiti. It is about time that we own up to it and fix it. The name is Roberto Baptiste. Thank you so much for watching The Baptiste Show. And if you're listening to the podcast, again, thank you. Until next time.